Modern life and the architecture of illusion. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe stood confidently at the edge of what it believed to be progress. Science was expanding its reach, industry was reshaping society, and philosophy, at least in its dominant forms, was increasingly concerned with systems, methods, and solutions. Life, it seemed, was moving forward with purpose. There was a growing belief that human existence could be organized, improved, and justified through reason, productivity. And it was within this atmosphere of optimism that Carlo Michelstaedter emerged as a deeply unsettling voice. Unlike his contemporaries, Michelstaedter did not ask how life could be perfected. He asked whether life, as most people lived it, was genuine at all. His philosophy was not built to inspire hope or offer comfort. It was designed to strip away illusion and expose the quiet dishonesty at the center of modern existence. Michelstaedter's fundamental claim was simple, yet devastating. Most people do not live their lives directly. Instead, they live in justification of their lives. They endure the present while explaining why fulfillment must come later. They tell themselves stories about progress, success, meaning, and reward, not because these stories are true, but because they make life bearable. For Michelstaedter, this condition was not accidental. It was structural. Modern life, he believed, is organized around lack. Human beings experience themselves as incomplete, unstable, and vulnerable. Rather than accepting this condition honestly, they seek to escape it. They attach their sense of worth to external goals, education, career, status, relationships, recognition. These goals promise wholeness, but only in the future. As a result, life becomes a continuous postponement of itself. The present moment is never enough. This postponement, Michelstaedter argued, is the defining feature of what he called rhetoric. Rhetoric, in his philosophy, is not merely a tool of speech or persuasion. It is a way of being. A rhetorical life is one that depends on explanations, excuses, and promises to justify its own existence. It constantly refers beyond itself for meaning. Life is not lived as it is, but as something that must be earned. Rhetoric tells people that suffering is acceptable because it will eventually be compensated. It frames dissatisfaction as virtue, anxiety as ambition, and self-denial as responsibility. Society rewards those who sacrifice the present for the future and condemns those who refuse to do so as immature or unrealistic. Michelstaedter saw this as a profound deception. He believed that when life is lived primarily as preparation, it is never truly lived. The individual becomes a means rather than an end. Their existence is reduced to a project, something to be completed, improved, or justified later. In the meantime, life itself slips away unnoticed. What makes rhetoric so powerful is that it feels reasonable. It aligns with social expectations. It is reinforced by institutions, traditions, and collective beliefs. Education systems train individuals to become useful rather than self-aware. Economic systems equate value with productivity. Cultural narratives celebrate endurance and patience while discouraging presence. In such a world, authenticity becomes suspicious. Michelstaedter did not believe that people were consciously lying to themselves. On the contrary, rhetoric works precisely because it feels natural. It offers reassurance in the face of uncertainty. It provides structure where reality offers none. It protects individuals from confronting the terrifying fact that existence has no guaranteed meaning. This protection, however, comes at a cost. By relying on rhetorical justifications, individuals surrender ownership of their lives. Their sense of self becomes dependent on external validation. They live according to borrowed meanings rather than direct experience. In doing so, they lose contact with themselves. Michelstaedter believed that modern individuals are constantly explaining themselves, who they are, what they do, where they are going, and why it all makes sense. These explanations function as psychological defenses. They keep existential anxiety at bay, but they also prevent genuine presence. The rhetorical individual is never fully here. Central to Michelstaedter's critique is the role of time. Rhetorical life is future-oriented. Meaning is always deferred. Satisfaction is imagined as something that will arrive once certain conditions are met. Yet these conditions are endlessly revised. The goalposts move. Fulfillment remains out of reach. Michelstaedter argued that this endless deferral is not a failure of planning, but the essence of rhetoric itself. If fulfillment were ever truly achieved, rhetoric would collapse. The system depends on dissatisfaction to sustain itself. This is why rhetorical life is fundamentally unstable. It promises resolution, but survives on lack. It offers hope while ensuring it is never fully realized. At the deepest level of this structure lies fear of death. Michelstaedter saw death not as a distant event, but as a constant presence. Human beings are finite at every moment. This finitude creates anxiety, vulnerability, and uncertainty. Rather than confronting this reality directly, rhetorical life attempts to neutralize it through distraction and postponement. People speak of living fully, while organizing their lives around avoiding the awareness of death. They seek permanence in achievements, legacy in success, and continuity in social roles. Michelstaedter believed all of this was an attempt to deny what cannot be denied. Death cannot be postponed. By refusing to face mortality honestly, rhetorical life becomes dishonest at its core. It pretends that life can be secured, stabilized, and justified through external means. In reality, existence is fragile, groundless, and exposed. Michelstaedter did not romanticize this exposure. He did not claim it was pleasant or empowering. He claimed it was true. Truth, for him, was not something that comforted. It was something that demanded courage. This is where Michelstaedter's philosophy begins to diverge sharply from most modern thought. He did not believe that life's meaning could be constructed through values, goals, or narratives. Any meaning that required justification was already suspect. Authentic existence, he argued, must be self-sufficient. It must not depend on future rewards or external approval. This radical demand places Michelstaedter in direct opposition to the logic of modern society. To live without rhetorical justification is to refuse the social contract that equates worth with usefulness. It is to reject the idea that life must prove itself. It is to stand exposed without excuses. Michelstaedter believed very few people were capable of this, not because they were morally weak, but because rhetorical life had shaped their entire understanding of existence. They had never encountered an alternative. This is why his philosophy feels so disturbing. It does not criticize specific beliefs or behaviors. It questions the very structure of modern life. It suggests that what society calls normal is, in fact, a form of collective self-deception. By the end of this critique, Michelstaedter leaves the reader with an uncomfortable realization. Life, as most people live it, is not false because it lacks success or happiness. It is false because it is never lived directly. This realization prepares the ground for his most radical concept, the distinction between rhetoric and persuasion as two completely different ways of existing. In the next part, this distinction will be explored in full depth, along with its devastating implications for authenticity, freedom, and the meaning of life itself.